After Father Damaskinos invited me to pick up his sourdoughs, well, here I am, in Finland.
We first arrived in Helsinki, where I went on a quest to find out more about the tradition of rye breads in the Finnish culture. For this, I reached out to Heikki, a specialist on Scandinavian breads.
What makes Finnish rye bread or Finnish rye sourdough bread so special according to you?
You can't bake without sourdough, because the sourdough makes that the pentosans of rye flour, they build some structure to the rye bread. If you don't use sourdough, you get a pancake. Rye itself, it contains very many health-promoting components, these phytochemicals. It gives you longer satiety. You don't have to eat snacks so often. You don't get hungry so soon. In these Scandinavian countries, you have to be self-sufficient. And rye is growing very well here. In these circumstances, even when we have climate change, we don't have to export. We are not dependent on other countries' harvests.
What is the main benefit of using sourdough in rye bread?
I think it is the taste. And then you get more shelf-life. You get, let's say, about 30% more shelf-life by using sourdough than without sourdough. So if you want to have natural baking without additives, you use sourdough.
After learning more about the importance of rye in the culture, I wanted to try the different flavors and types of available rye bread, as well as visit some of the best bakeries in town. Our last stop was Tuulosrieva. Father Damaskinos recommended this bakery in town, where they let me and the crew go all the way into the atelier, where they bake rye, wheat and oat breads. And they even showed us their sourdough, which they store in pre-measured packages for later ease of use.
This bread is not made with sourdough, it's only with milk and yeast. It's very sweet, very round flavor, but nothing beats a good sourdough bread.
We stayed overnight in Hämeenlinna, about 15 minutes away from Father Damaskinos' house and chapel, but now we are ready to make some rye bread.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
And here we are, in the middle of the woods in Finland, ready to discover the secrets of Finnish rye.
There are basically two ways of preserving the sourdough. The traditional method is, when you use these wood vessels, is to leave the leftovers in the vessel and then melt them with water, and that becomes the starter.
When you're in Mount Athos, do you work the same way?
No, we never bake 100% rye bread. It's too tough for the Greeks. Now you add flour, don't add too much, and they should be quite runny.
We will now let the sourdough rise for a day before we can start making the bread.
When I was in Xenophontos, you triggered my curiosity and you had that rye sourdough. What can you tell me actually about that sourdough?
My father's side of my family are refugees, or as we call evacuees, from Karelia, which is an area nowadays divided between Finland and Russia. There were about 400,000 internal refugees in Finland that came from there, including my father's family. The most precious thing that they brought with them was the rye sourdough, because that was a very important part of their culture. Unfortunately, the rye sourdough in my father's family has been lost. A friend of mine who's an Orthodox priest had an old refugee sourdough in his family. It probably dates to somewhere in the beginning of 19th century, end of 18th century. So we nowadays bake with the same sourdough.
Well, if it can reassure you, in the library we will protect and offer a backup for as long as the sourdough library will exist.
It's a good thing generally. As we see, wars come suddenly and they also affect the traditions of baking. So Now the starter has been here with the water. We make it into this really runny porridge. See a lot of these bubbles here, and
It's alive, eh?
it's alive and it smells.
It's very yogurty, very smooth, silky.
I usually like my dough really runny, so that I barely can grab it with my hands.
Okay.
And do stuff, because that produces the best eating. What you want to do is add salt and then add flour. We make a sign of the cross with our hands, like this.
Just like in Xenophontos, the blessing of the dough is very important in the process of the bread making for the Orthodox Church.
Kiitetulkoon Jumalamme alati nyt ja aina ja kaikkisesta ja kaikkiseen. Aamen. Pyhä Jumala, pyhä väkevä, pyhä kuolematon, armahda meitä. Sielummen. Nyt ja aina ja iankaikkisesta iankaikkiseen. Aamen. Sen palkan sekä meitäkin armahtakoon hyvyydessä ja ihmisrakkaudessaan. So now we put it in a warm place to rise for 3 to 6 hours.
Father Damaskinos buys his flour directly from a miller. We're going to pick up the flour I will take back with me to Belgium and an extra treat for dinner tonight.
Bye-bye, is that moi moi?
Moi moi, yeah.
And hello?
Moi.
Moi.
Oh, the dough is ready. Now we just need to make it into loaves of bread. It's quite soft, but let's see what happens. We try to make it into a little bit of pyramid shape, so it will smoothen out and become a round bread. And now we wait an hour or two.
While we wait for the bread to rise, Father Damaskinos teaches me how to make some Karelian specials. Karjalan piraka, or unleavened rye pies, and vatrushkas made with the wheat sourdough from the cross, which are wheat and cardamom sweet buns filled with the traditional Finnish sour yogurt. The Karelian pies are often used to check the oven temperature before baking the rye bread.
Oh yeah, wow. They look fine. So a bit of brown.
The smell is great.
And now the oven is ready to bake the bread.
So let's check the bread. That's yours. It ended up being nice. And the sound. Yeah. Top. Yeah, that sounds great.
That's the one. Yeah.
So now we cover them and they should be fine in a few hours.
The last thing we need to do is to take the sourdoughs back to Belgium. We will start with the Stavros sourdough. Voila. And then the other one, eh?
The rye one. Open.
You promised this morning we were going to make a lot of things. Can we have a quick overview of what we have been doing actually today?
So the first thing we did in the oven are the Karelian pies, which don't have any sourdough in them. Those you eat traditionally with this spread called egg butter. With the sourdough from Xenophontos of the cross, I baked this bread, which is a mixture of wheat, barley, oats and spelt. Last thing we baked in the oven are these sweet buns filled with sour yogurt. And of course we have the main star of the day, which is the rye bread.
The reason why I came.
Yes, and which turned out to be quite good actually. And we also have some freshly smoked salmon.
The flavor of the crust. It's very roasted, almost nutty.
And this has the perfect structure because the crust is supposed to be kind of dry and hard, but the inside is supposed to be a bit softer and richer.
This is probably the best rye bread that I have tasted. It's a nice ending of a day. We should maybe invite the hardworking people behind the scene to come and join us. Come on guys, you did a good job today. Let's enjoy these delicious goods.
Hyvää ruokahalua Kallioreksi. Bon appétit.